Here we go with an interview with Jackie Baldwin. She is amazing. Before we begin, please be sure to subscribe to my channel. If you enjoy the interview, please like and comment when it's over. Also, Jackie makes amazing GLP-1 t-shirts, and you can find a link in my description below to her shop. So be sure to check those out. Here we go. All right. So we're here with Jackie Baldwin. Thanks for joining me today, Jackie.
Thanks for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Absolutely. So to start off, I'd love for you to just kind of share a little bit about your journey, how you got to where you are now and whatever you'd like to share with us.
Yeah, okay. So I started Mounjaro back in June of 2023. So I can't even believe it's been a year and a half now. At the time, I was living on my own, getting my master's degree, and I was in Washington, D.C. Now, I had always been struggling with my weight as a kid. I went to Weight Watchers. I believe I was like 8 or 9. With my mom, and always did working out. Started Orange Theory at 13. I was very active, yet I had always watched everything I ate. And I always felt like there was some sort of pressure to, eat a certain way and to look a certain way, yet I was never there. I never felt like I was there. So had always struggled with my weight, always had a history of maybe going down a few pounds, going up, going down, up, but I always stayed within like a 10-pound range. I did have my thyroid tested, everything was good with that. I was on birth control, no issues with gaining weight on that. And I noticed about maybe a few months after I moved to DC back in August of 2022, I started putting on more weight than I had ever have. And I was walking more than ever in the city. I didn't have a car. I was eating. I did all my grocery shopping and eating pretty well. I learned how to cook certain, things. I always ate a lot. I was never a snacker, but I always liked to eat. Always looked forward to my next meal, when my next meal would be, how much I was going to eat at that meal, which I didn't realize, wasn't normal. But I noticed gaining weight. And my parents initially were like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." They're like, "No, we just noticed that you're, putting on some weight." And I noticed too. I went from buying maybe larges to extra larges, and just kind of here and there. And it was definitely affecting my mental health. As I said, I was always working out, always kind of careful about what I was eating, yet here I am gaining weight. So about February of 2023, I came down. Now I was in college still, getting my master's. So I didn't have I was still on my parents' insurance. I didn't have access to, stuff up there unless I was willing to pay. So I came home and made an appointment with an endocrinologist, and they did a full panel, and they basically diagnosed me with PCOS after two panels that they did. So one, there was some stuff that came up, and they said, "Come back, we want to check this further." When they did that, that's when they diagnosed me. So that was, in a way, I always say, kind of like a blessing in disguise, because it kind of validated for all these years, when you're young, like I was 23 at the time, that you're doing everything you can, yet I was never that one of those thin kids, that eats, everything and they don't gain weight. I always, every pound showed, everything I ate showed. So from there, my parents are both pharmacists, and from there, the doctor's like, "Look, you can go on Metformin." Now, my mom had not so great experiences with Metformin, with her stomach and stuff. So I was kind of scared about that. I know it works for some people, and it might have worked for me. I didn't want that. So I was like, no, it's okay. So really, I didn't do anything. I walked out February 2023, went back up to DC. and it just kept gaining. Now I never got on a scale. I want to preface that. Even when I was at the doctor, yes, they did put me on a scale. I didn't know the number. I never looked at it. I didn't want to look at it. Wasn't good for my health. Cut to a few months later, I'm still, gaining, probably here and there up the same, like 10 pounds or so, but probably from my, normal weight that I was before I went to DC, probably about 15 to 20 pounds that I know of, because like I said, didn't really weigh. My friend had a scale in her apartment. This is about maybe May of 2023. And, I'm pretty active on social media. I'm young, obviously. And I heard a lot about Ozempic. But, I'm like, oh, it's one of the fads. I'm really into the Real Housewives. They're all on it. I figure it's one of those kind of things, right? My friend had a scale in her bathroom, and I was like, you know what? I'm alone. I haven't been on a scale in forever. Let me hop on. And I had in my mind thought maybe 145, 150, that's my number. I'm pretty short. I'm 5'2" to 5'3", say 5'3" because I want to be generous, more like 5'2". And I get on the scale and I see like 189 and I lose it. Now I suffer from anxiety and OCD. I've been on medication for years for that. And I immediately felt like I was going to throw up. Like I was at my friend's place. I came out. She was like, "Are you okay? You look like you don't, and I was like, I don't feel good." I went home and just cried. Like I spent probably an hour just full on sobbing, crying. Like you would think that, my dog died. I was for me, weight has always had a effect on me, my eating, and to feel like I was doing so much for so long to never get the results that I wanted. I say my friends, that we'd go out and they would eat like, half their meal and be full. That was never me. But then I would work out and they didn't work out. So it's like, I figured, okay, well, yeah, I'm eating my whole meal, but I'm working out 5 days a week, 6 days a week and walking. And so anyway, I called my endocrinologist back and we did like a, Zoom. And I said, I don't know what to do anymore, and she was like, well, there's Ozempic. A lot of people are, I've had some, people had success with that, not really around your age. Sorry, that might've been me.
That's okay.
Not really around your age, but I've had people that have had some success with that. So I was like, I don't know, my parents are both pharmacists and I was talking to them and they were like, yeah, but why don't you look at Mounjaro? And I was like, what is that? And then I started looking on TikTok and saw more things about it. But they're like, well, people are saying that it's a little stronger. It's a different, kind of, composition. It's called terzepatide, the active ingredient, that kind of thing. And I was like, okay. So I went back to my endocrinologist. I saw some people posting, which is now people 2-3 years later that are still posting on TikTok. And I said, what about Mounjaro? And she was like, yeah, absolutely. But, I was pre-diabetic. Oh, I didn't want to preface that too. My A1C was 5.7. Keep that in mind. And diabetes runs in my family. My mom's a diabetic. My entire grandfather's side, except him, had diabetes, and that's only because he watched everything. And heart disease runs in my family too, on the other side. So, keep in mind all of that. But she said, you're not a diagnosed diabetic. Probably won't get covered. So I said, okay, I did have a lot of savings from scholarships and, stuff like that from college that I was able to luckily get that was helping, supplement with my apartment, some other things here and there, but I did have a decent amount. So when I looked into it at the time, I had just missed the $25 savings card. Keep that in mind. So I was going to pay, I think it was like $450. And I talked to my parents and they said, we'll cover, the first month. Let's see how you do. Okay. You do 1 month, you see how you do after that. It's on you to cover it. So I said, okay. So my doctor wrote my script and I started June 22nd of 2023 on Mounjaro. I took my first and I I remember just the day after feeling like some slight aches, but I did my whole thing. I had clients, I was in grad school, had clients, did everything, felt fine. Week 2, week 3, week 4. And this is why, we talk on social media a lot about not expecting this day to the next 15-pound drop. My first month, I think maybe 2 pounds total, which is in the normal range. At the time, I wasn't seeing all these things on social media. I lost 30 pounds in the first month. So for me, I was thrilled. I was like, I don't think I've lost 2 pounds in the last 5 years, So that was my first month. Now, I wish I knew this sooner too. I did go up to 5 after that. My first dose of 5, I got pretty sick. Only time I really had been sick on Mounjaro. And my doctor said, okay, let's just put in a script, go back to 2.5, for a week or 2, then go back to 5, see how you do. So that's what I did. So really I did 6 weeks on 2.5 and then went up to 5. And, I was thrilled. I started seeing, it was slow. My first 2 to 3 months were slower. And then I stopped weighing myself every week. I was really conscious about that because I knew my appetite was suppressed. I wasn't finishing before all my meals like I would. I think we went out to my favorite restaurant in DC and I probably ate half of my meal, and I would eat before, probably my whole meal and then maybe a little bit of my roommate's meal. She was thin. So I realized I'm like, wow, I'm eating when I'm hungry. My breakfast, I was having a bagel sandwich every day. I went from that to having some egg bites, from Starbucks or a protein bar. And I know you're going to trash my Think bars, but I love them.
I just don't like the taste. That's all.
But yeah, so that was my, and I started noticing, hey, like, these are things that I want to eat. I'm not eating them really to lose weight, but I was conscious, walking every day still. I did my hour a day. And I felt when I had set consistent goals for myself, hit this amount of protein. I didn't really know. I kind of got that from, TikTok, which is not recommended. I did get a dietitian a few months later, but, when I hit, more protein, when I, set a goal, okay, 10,000 steps a day. So that for me, I motivated that way. I need a goal. So yeah, I did weigh myself about every 2 weeks at that point, and I was consistently saw a drop. And I think my biggest whoosh was like months 3 to 4, 3 to 5, 3 to 6, and it just fell off me. So in total, I lost, when I hit my goal, I think it was about 74 pounds in about 8 months.
Amazing.
Which I told you month 1 and 2 were very slow. So really those like 6 to 7 months after that were like, and people's reactions were very interesting. I was open about being on it. But people around me that weren't close to me, their reactions, and we can talk about that too, but were very interesting. It really opened my eyes to what people might say about you in private, but when you look a certain way, feel very, encouraged to say to your face. So overall, it came about maybe June of 20, or actually a year. So June of 2024, this year. Went back to the doctor, and I'll be honest, was not the weight that we had really initially talked about being. I didn't realize that I even, because like I said, I would weigh every 2-3 weeks. I wasn't consistent with my weighing. As long as I, felt like my jeans weren't tighter, I was good. And I did dip below, what we talked about, coupled with, okay, I'm still paying out of pocket. It's going up, so what am I doing? I don't have, the money's running slim, and I had like money from graduation and this and that, and still some savings, but it really wasn't as much to keep me going. So that was another factor. Doctor said, okay, you've done really well. It's been a year. You have great habits. Like she was very, my doctor always says this to me. She goes, you're like one of the most disciplined people I've ever met. She said, because I really I'm not obsessed about it, but I'm disciplined, with my workout routine. I know I'm going to feel better when I get on that elliptical or that treadmill or that walk. And I like it. It's time for me. I've made it more of a mental health kind of thing rather than a physical too, because it is more for me, I found very mental. And that's what I can control, right? My mental part, because the physical stuff with the PCOS and stuff, that's managed really with medication, the drug, all that. Obviously a little bit of what I do, but if my mental state isn't good, then my physical is not going to be good. So the doctor's like, look, you even spacing out 2.5 every 2 weeks, I was losing.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So she's like, because I was tapering, and then I was like, she's like, try a maintenance, let's do a maintenance dose, and I was like, okay, because then I could justify affording it too, right? Buying it every 2 months instead of every month. I could do that. So I kept losing. Even my highest was 7.5, and I did that for a month. And then I went back down to 5, and so even 2.5 every 2 weeks, I was losing. Doctor said, okay, let's see how you do off of it. This is not permanent. It doesn't have to be permanent. Let's see how, we try, see how the blood work is. Let's see how you do. We'll monitor, and let's see how it is. So that's what we did. And that was in June. Coincidentally, at the same time, I was moving back home to Florida for, a job. So I hadn't been home since I was 18, living at home. So that was very interesting. And that's been hard, but we can also talk about that. But so yeah, that was a whole journey itself. Maintaining, it was very hard. Even on, when I hit maintenance, that was hard when you're in a loss mode your entire life. Oh, I can't eat this. And that's, I'm telling you, not that you can't, but I'm telling for myself, that was what I was doing my whole life. Oh, I can't eat this. I can't eat this. I can't eat this. To now being like, yeah, on the medication, I felt like I can have a bite. I felt like I can have 2 and be done with it. Whereas before, if it were in front of me, I would have like that back and forth with it. Should I, shouldn't I, that kind of thing. So I was terrified of that, but even on maintenance, I was still losing, and I was doing the same thing. I realized I was doing the same thing I was my whole journey, and I wasn't on my journey anymore. I'm on a different journey now. Yeah. So I came off, and I just kind of said, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to plan, things that I like to eat. Because up there I would eat, but I was home now, so it'd be a little different. So I said to my family, these I'm going to stick within things that I did before. I like consistency too. I'm one of those. I can eat the same thing every day. I don't get bored of it. If I like it, I eat it. You know what I mean? I know people that my mom, she's on Mounjaro too, but she needs a different thing every day. I like consistency. That's just my grandfather. He was the same way. He ate the same thing every day for 40 years.
Yeah.
So that's what I do, or around the, same 2 to 3 things for breakfast, lunch, dinner, stuff like that. So that's what I've been doing. I also, upped my workouts. So I do weights. I walk a lot. I walk probably about 15 to 20,000 steps a day. And I've been able to maintain. Mentally, it has been a challenge.
Yeah.
It has been a challenge. I haven't, we're 6 months out as we're doing this interview. I haven't gained, maybe during this week, it's like been Christmas, stuff like that. Maybe I think I've, if anything, gained a few from where I've, been consistently, but not anything to be concerned about. That's normal. I also started a new medication for my cholesterol, which, could have some, things too, whatever. But it has been mentally really hard. The food noise is there. I do have some inflammation, but my blood work is good. My doctor and I have discussed possibly starting a maintenance dose again to help with the mental part of it, because, I'm very cautious too. I work in therapy and I work with a dietitian. to make sure that it doesn't turn into something that could be mental concern, you know, because there is a history of that in my family too. So for me, I'm very careful of that, and I don't want that. But, you know, with the food noise, sometimes it's really hard to shut that mental part off. So it's kind of where I'm at now. I've done well so far with maintaining. I'm really honest about that. I feel like in my content, I try to be, not my content, but, you know, online, because some days are just not, they're hard. And some days I feel like, oh, I still revert back to, I can't eat that. But then I'm
Yeah.
like, why? What, you know? The comments are hard. I get comments from people who are like, you know, oh, well, you wouldn't know, you starve yourself, or oh, you wouldn't know, or you wouldn't know what that's like, you're thin, or oh, you're a small thing, you know, stuff like that. And it's funny to me. You know, you said this to me a year and a half ago, I'd been like, oh my gosh, I would love those comments. I don't love them. I think that, you know, we need to, as a society, we shouldn't be commenting on other people's bodies, whether they're a size 2 or they're a size 12, they're a size 22.
Yep.
You know, so that's where we're at now, maintaining. I don't know what the future holds. I always tell people, for me, coming off when I did made sense for, like we talked about, a few factors, but everyone has their own journey. Everyone has their own thing that works best for them. If you feel like coming off and seeing how you do works, great. And, you know, my doctor, I think a lot of people too are scared that it would be permanent. It's not permanent. You know, my doctor always kind of left that door open for me. And I appreciate that. And, you know, maybe there's, you know, a compound route in my future. I'm kind of exploring all options and seeing, you know, what works best, what would make the most sense for me. But I've really adapted my lifestyle. I've learned to fuel my body with things I really do enjoy. Everything I eat, I enjoy. I don't feel like I restrict. I do feel like sometimes that food noise can feel like a restriction. And that's when I have to sit with myself. And I've done this in therapy and be like, okay, what's the worst possible thing that can happen if I have that piece of brownie? You know? So I've done a lot of work in therapy too. I continue to do that. And yeah, that was a lot of talking. Sorry.
No, that was amazing. And it's funny, did I really say that? I probably did. Like, oh, as far as people commenting on my weight, was that something you said I said a year ago?
No, not you.
Oh, I thought you said me. Okay, because
No, no,
no,
no,
no, no, it's
no.
fine. No, no. Only reason I say that is because even back then, I might have thought that was cool, and yet now I don't know. If anyone
So would
talks about
I.
it, I
I would say
cringe.
that
It's
I
like
would say
yeah,
my roommate in college is my best friend. She's 95 pounds soaking wet. Now she's very short, but and I would say to her, "Oh, well, you know, it's so nice. Like, it's so nice to be tiny and this and that." And I like apologized to her,
yeah,
you know, a few months ago, and I said, "You know, I want you to know, I hope I never, you know, made you feel bad about yourself." She's like, "No, not at all." You know, she never really had to think about her weight, you know,
yeah,
but now, you know, I do get comments like, oh, or you'll have some of these fries and that. And I'm like, no, I'm good. Cause really at the moment, I don't want those, you know, I used to eat any fry that was in, but now I'm like, yeah, I'd rather have McDonald's, you know, I don't really need those.
yeah.
Oh, are you are you still in the thing? Are you starving yourself? Or, you know, oh, you want to know, oh, here the other day, this is a good one. Here's, oh, we got you these, you know, cookies or whatever. Oh, but you probably won't eat them. You know, stuff like that. You know, comments from my family, seeing a picture on Facebook and texting, you know, my parents like, hey, she good? Is she okay? You
Mhm.
know, it's because I've never been this way, right? I've been overweight my whole life. I can assure you comments were said behind my back, 1,000,000%.
Yeah,
They were never said to my face, but now they are.
yeah. It's
Now they
weird.
are, you know? The only time I was really body shamed was in middle school with some bullies, you know, that commented on my weight. But other than that, I'm sure my weight was a discussion, but never to my face. Now, I mean, I get probably a comment once a week. I get
Yeah,
them in my DMs on
yeah,
TikTok from people, you know, that are, you know, well, you know, or people that we know. Are you okay? And stuff like that. Or, just things like that.
Yeah.
And even people that I don't know. And it's just really, it's eye-opening how much we feel like, we can talk about people's weight. And some people think they can talk about it no matter what, if the person's 300 pounds or, 100 pounds. But I do think as a society, whether we recognize it or not, we have to really look into how we view weight and people, because we think just because someone on the outside, they're 110, 115 pounds, okay, great. But we have to realize, maybe our comments to them, we don't know what they're going through. There's some days that I feel like I look like, and someone comments and says that, and it makes me feel worse.
Yeah.
And I probably 2 years ago would have been like, oh my gosh, I welcome all of those. But
Yeah.
it makes me feel
Right.
worse. It makes me feel worse because then I think, oh my gosh, do I look like I'm not eating? I just had that whole thing to eat. Oh my gosh, are they looking at everything I'm eating?
Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah. And being home too, and I love my parents, it's been really hard. I feel like I'm more under a microscope than I was
Hmm.
when I was living on my own. Both my parents are on Mounjaro currently. My mom's diabetic, and then my dad is on it for weight purposes. But for me, it's been interesting kind of seeing them, because they didn't understand it when I was on it. They're like, "What are what are you doing?" But or what do you mean you can't? You're not in the mood for Mexican food. You eat that every day. So that's been nice for them to see it from my perspective, but it has been hard because they've obviously never ever seen me this weight. I don't think the weight I am now I was when I was like 7, 8 years old. Like I told you, I went to Weight Watchers very young. Um, so yeah, that's been interesting.
So with weight loss, when you're that young, was that something your parents, they must have initiated that, no?
No,
How did that happen?
I always knew I was overweight. I don't know. I'm sure there was, my grandfather was very obsessed with his weight. He maintained, he was an overweight kid, and he, in adulthood, never weighed over 145 pounds. My grandmother worked for Weight Watchers. My mom, even though she was never like super thin, she was always aware of her weight. I knew I was overweight. I think maybe some comments probably were made like, oh, you don't need that, or oh, eat this instead. I'm sure. I don't like soda, but we were also like never allowed to have soda in my house. But then when I had it, I didn't like it. So like stuff like that. I'm sure that
Hmm.
there was obviously an environmental influence, but I remember strictly initiating that conversation with my mom.
Wow. At 8 though, that's wild. Yeah.
I think it was like 8 or 9. It was like third grade, so like 8 to 9 around then. And, my mom has always been super supportive, and she's wanted nothing more than for me to be happy and healthy.
Yeah.
And she absolutely hates that I ever felt the way I did, and continue, to sometimes feel that this is a burden I'll, have the rest of my life. Now these medications have changed that. And I do know that in a way, call it what you want. For me, I'm calling it a security blanket, because I do know that they will help me with that mental part.
Yeah.
That it's not rocket science to do everything that science tells you to do, yet you take this medication, and I've been able to do something I've never been able to do my entire life and keep it off.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no reason for that. You know what I mean? Other than there is something metabolically wrong, and I took a medication for it. Like I'm on a cholesterol med right now because my cholesterol genetically is just awful, hereditary in my family. It's awful. So I'm on a
Yeah.
medication for that. We don't turn a blind eye. We say, okay, yeah, you need to get on something now. But so I was very young. I have my own thoughts about that company. I
Hmm.
think if it works for you, great. My sister, has been able to track, use their thing to track, and she on her own without any medication or anything like that has been down 50 something pounds for last year. So for her, great. I always found that system a little triggering to me, especially when you're 8, 9 years old and they're telling you, if you want salad, put your dressing on the side and dip your fork in it, you know, um, or making me get on a scale every week at 8 to
Yeah.
9 years old. And when I didn't see a weight loss, saying, what could you have done differently? I don't know. I'm a kid. I want to eat, I want to eat, French fries and grilled cheese. I don't want to be worrying about getting on the scale in front of, people the next week, and this was like 2009. So I'm sure, I don't know if they've adapted, since then, but that definitely had a little toll on me. I didn't do it for long. I did go back when I was probably about 12 with my mom again, and that really kick-started something for me. And then I joined Orange Theory when I was 13. You were supposed to be a little older. I said I was that age because I knew I could do it. I knew I wanted to do it. I was with, a trainer. I was fine. And I did Orange Theory for 8.5 years.
Wow.
So
And that's more on the working out. So what was Orange Theory?
yeah, Orange Theory is a HIIT-based workout. So you have a
Okay.
personal trainer. It's a group exercise. You do 3 different types. You do cardio strength, all that stuff. Rower, elliptical. You could do a bike, weights, all of that. And it's led by a instructor. Then I worked there. So that's nice. But that really kickstarted that. So when I was about 12, I lost about 60 pounds. Now that was kickstarted watching my weight, and getting into healthier habits and stuff, but I never felt like I was there. Like I was doing the things. I felt like I felt like I was living, for food.
Mm-hmm.
Every meal I felt like I was under a microscope. While my friends were eating burgers and fries, I was having a salad. And what was really opening for me was when I was about 19, my sorority had like a event, and they did like most likely to do this and that. You know what mine was? Most likely to order a salad at McDonald's.
Damn.
That was mine at 19. And to me, that was very eye-opening. Like, oh my gosh, other people notice. Other people notice that I do that. I thought, okay, I'm living in my bubble and I'm doing what works for me because I have no choice. My cousins on my dad's side, they eat whatever they want and they're still sick thin. My sister and I are different. We have a different makeup. But my sister's always been, at least she can eat, half her meal. She's full. She's good. Not me. If it's in front of me, I'm eating the whole thing. I clean my plate. Yeah. And I've never been able to do that until I
Yeah.
was on these medications where I said, you know what? No, I could eat the rest, but I'm good. I'm full. I'm going to take it. I didn't even know what taking home things were. I was like, people that do that are crazy. What do you mean you don't finish your food at the table? I did that the first time on these medications. So that's why when I say the mental part of it is so strong. And
Yeah.
I really have to keep in check with that because I know the second that I let that slip, it's going to happen physically too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know? So yeah.
Woo, girl. Yeah, I mean, I just to share a little, we had very similar stories. I'd say the biggest difference was like I was always told, that I needed to lose weight. Like I always knew. My
Mhm.
mom was a model, my dad was
Oh,
tall and thin, my brother was thin, I'm adopted.
yeah.
And I went to diet center at 13. I lost weight. I got down to like a size 7, 8 at 13. And then, you know, once a whole other stuff happened within my family, very traumatic,
Yeah.
that just, it went downhill from there. But like my whole life, my mom, even it's funny because you talk about, it reminded me of, we'd go to a restaurant. And this happened up until 2 years ago,
Mhm.
and she'd remind me, she'd be like, well, Loy and I always split a meal, that kind of, she had to say it like every time, like, I know you split a meal, mom, thank you, I'm going to get what I want, you know what I mean, because I had a big appetite and I was going to eat my meal, but it was just like constant. I don't even know if she was fully aware
Yeah.
how much she did it my whole life, but it
Mhm.
was just constant. And now, of course, she's like, oh, well, I wish we'd known you had PCOS, it wasn't your fault, this and that. And I'm glad she sees that now, but it's still, even now, like I went over, when I first started the medication, I went to her house and was having a salad and put dressing on my salad. And she's like, oh, you're putting that much dressing on? And I'm like, you need to watch what you're about to say. this is not going to continue. You are not going to talk about what I eat, how much, you know what I mean? It actually
Yeah.
really upset me.
Yeah.
And as hopefully, I'm trying not to, in case she ever sees this, but the point is it's like that all has to end.
No, and that's the thing is it's like, my mom, like I said, my parents were like the most supportive in the world about
Yeah.
this journey. But, as a kid, and I think some of it was me too. I think I did say to my mom, stop me. If I want that, stop me. But then I was also a kid and she would be
Yeah.
like, well, you don't need that. Or do you really want that? Really? You want that?
Yeah.
You really, or even about what I would wear. Are you going to wear that? And it's not her fault. She always had the best intentions for me. And she knew that I wanted it, but I didn't,
Yeah.
my parents have not made comments about anything I eat in year. Like I think since probably that time.
Yeah.
Now, yes. Which is very interesting. Now it's like, well, you're just gonna get the salad, and I said, yeah, with a big chunk of grilled chicken on it. Like, and it's not like I'm just eating lettuce or, you're not gonna, because I love the one thing that Mounjaro did is I'm obsessed with vegetables. I don't know what happened.
That's
I
awesome.
need spinach in like every meal. It changed my palate. I drink black coffee and I need spinach in every meal. I mean, it's like weird, but
Yeah.
you're not gonna get any like for example, breakfast, I'll do like an omelet,
Yeah.
spinach, cheese, tomato, omelet. And sometimes I want my English muffin, sometimes I don't. It really just depends. Sometimes I'm really full. Oh, you're not gonna eat the English muffin with it? Well, no, I mean, it's there. I'm really full. Like today, I ate the whole thing,
Yeah.
But some days I'm like, I can't even stomach that right now. Oh, why? Why? You need carbs. You need to, stuff like that. Or, oh, you're just going to eat that. You're done.
Ah.
So that's hard, right? Because then I
Yeah.
feel like I need to eat it. I need to finish my plate. I need to prove, so that part,
Yeah.
And, I know it comes out of a place of worry. I know it comes out of a place of, okay, the type of person I am, like I did discuss, I do have OCD. I have tons of anxiety. I understand with those things too, how that can be like, oh, well, but I have goals and I, track. And if I feel like I'm kind of under, I'll have maybe a protein shake or I'll do what I can to get myself there. I've worked with a dietitian too, about, okay, days that there's some days like the other day at work, I think my total steps for the day was like 26,000 because I'm running around.
Right.
Yeah. And like with my head cut off. And I was like, okay, I need to, up for the day, to account for how much I walked today and how much I did and stuff like that. So, it's interesting. Those comments, and like I said, weren't made before and now they're made. And I'm like, I don't know how to handle that because you didn't care, or maybe you did care, but you didn't make comments when I was, eating enough for 3 people beforehand.
Yeah.
But now when I'm eating and I say like a normal person, and I hate framing it like that, but but
Yeah.
it's true. Like I went out with my friend yesterday. She had half her plate and she was good. She was good. And even being off of it now, some days are like that. I can, eat but then I'll eat till I'm sick some days.
Yeah.
And I have to evaluate, okay, at least, I'm eating a salad till I'm sick and not eating 3 plates of fries till I'm sick,
Right.
But yeah, it's an interesting, but I can't be mad at anyone. I just have to, the best we can do is educate people. And obviously we see the comments a lot of times
Yeah.
online, and some people it'll always be that way, especially now with how much these are glamorized in the media.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, and I don't even know, like with my mom, obviously it's triggering because it happened my whole life,
right.
So I had to set boundaries. I'm like, this is not going to happen
Yeah.
at all. But, I haven't really run into the other stuff yet, but
Yeah.
we'll see. I think with other people, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how I'll react until it happens. So
I started being honest about it too with like,
yeah,
family, distant family, stuff like that, because, you're going to either think I have a huge problem
yeah,
or, I'm going to say what really happened,
yeah,
or what I really did, because it's true. Like, it's not a coincidence. You see a lot of people now where they've struggled, even celebrities, they struggled their whole entire life. It's documented for them more, obviously, because they're in the media. And now they're like a size 2, 4, 6. And, I mean, obviously it's their choice to say if they're on it or not. But, I don't think there should be any shame in it.
No, I even say that I'm like, and women in Hollywood, it sucks, but you have to be like a size 4 if you want to
Yeah.
get cast into film, unless it's a fat
Yeah.
role. So it's like, I hey, whatever you need to do,
Right.
no judgment at all.
Right. But I'm so great. I mean, I have such it's definitely a battle still. And I think people with maintenance, you don't really think about it till you get there.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, man, when the time comes, I could never imagine not watching everything I ate. Right.
Yeah.
So the fact that I've been there for 6 months now, I mean, been off of it, been in maintenance probably for about 8 to 9. It's crazy. And some days are very hard mentally. Like some days I do find myself thinking about it, and I have to really sit with myself and evaluate, okay, what's the worst that can happen? What am I really concerned about here? And other days I don't even think about it. I eat till I'm full. I eat the same things I like to eat. We're good. So it's definitely a battle. It's a battle. And you know what? I don't care what people say. Is it the same battle it was my whole life? Absolutely not. I'm in a different mindset. I've changed greatly the way I view food, the way I view myself, the way I view meals and pleasure of food, all of that. But that will be there the rest of my life. I believe I will be on these in some way, maybe intermittently here and there for the rest of my life, because I do have, metabolically a reason to be. But,
Mm-hmm.
That's why I tell people, if you can come off, see how you do. If you
That's
can't,
what I'm going to
that's
do.
fine
Yeah.
too. I've had people come to me in my messages being like, you promote, what did they say? They were like, oh, you promote an unrealistic standard. And I said, that it's my journey, my life. I never promote to come off and do it. Like, and then, I've been very transparent about that. I'm always like, do what you want to do.
Yep.
As long as it's between you and your doctor and it's what works best for you. That's what I needed at that time.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I did. Because, from that, I have been able to, within that 5-pound range with that, from when I went to the doctor and I was that low weight, and been able to maintain that. And she's really happy. My PCP's happy. My gyno's happy. Like everyone's happy.
Yeah.
So that's all I can. My blood work's good. So that's all I can do, and I'm happy. And as long as I keep with doing all the things that I'm doing, but that could change 6 months from now. And I'm very transparent about that too. It's not a permanent solution. Nothing's permanent. And I think telling someone like me with anxiety that is like a really big help. And I want people to know that it's not permanent,
Yeah. Well, and that's why, like, I want to, I'm vocal about it. I want to stop when I get there and see, because I want to see what happens. I'm curious what the experience will be like. Will I, I want to be like my doctor, 2.5 once a month. That would be amazing. That would be amazing. But because I see so many benefits from it.
Yeah.
But I want to see what happens, and just
especially with the inflammation. I'm 25, and like I actually had like a back issue. I had like sciatic issues and stuff like that with my sciatic nerve. That was gone. Now I have it. Not saying that's a reason to only be on it, but like even with that, I see like, oh my, I didn't have that for so long, and now it's back. So yeah, absolutely. And I know you've been really transparent about that, and there's nothing wrong with that, and it's not permanent. Okay, worst that happens is you go up, you reset, you evaluate, you go back on.
Yeah. And it's such a, you're not going to gain it all back, because you can go back on it. You know what I mean? So it's like, for people that have access, at least. I know that people that lose their meds and can't afford compound, whatever, that's a big deal. That sucks. I wish everyone could, because that does take all of this anxiety off of my, I'm never going back there.
Yeah.
But I'm in a fortunate position where I can afford it. I'm not covered either.
Yeah.
So hopefully that'll always be the case. And I think as more meds come out, we'll have more affordable options.
It'll only
Um,
get harder to get covered for these, I fear, you
yeah,
know?
yeah. I think, it's going to get interesting. I was talking to Carrie yesterday, and talking about with once it gets approved for like liver
Yeah.
disease,
Oh,
a,
yeah.
liv- a liver transplant is 400 grand. So insurance companies would actually save money going the Zepbound route than a
Yeah.
liver transplant.
I do think it's a shame in a way, the way it's glamorized in
Hmm.
social media, especially Hollywood, because there
Yeah,
are some celebrities we've seen that could have benefited and, had a reason. And I don't know anyone's certain metabolic, but then there's some, they're like, yeah, I took it. Yeah, it wasn't for me, but I took it,
yeah,
that kind of thing. I think that that's done it a disservice too, because anytime now someone posts and they have some sort of weight loss, oh, it must be Ozempic,
Ozempic. Yeah,
must be
yeah,
that. Like,
yeah,
no, people can actually, there are people out there that can lose weight on their own,
yeah,
but so I think that too is a shame,
yeah.
because I feel like it takes away from everyday normal, experiences like you and I,
Hmm.
who have greatly benefited and changed our lives from this medication. Or from two different backgrounds, two different parts of the country, different ages, different parts of our lives, and we both have this experience where we've never been able to maintain a weight, a healthy weight, or been able to lose weight
Yeah.
despite being told, but despite doing things that would, be like, medic or scientifically like, oh yeah, well, if you do this, you'll lose weight.
Yep, yep. And I could lose, but I'd always gain it back, or I would lose when I was broke and didn't have money for food, or I would lose
Oh
when I
yeah.
was in San Diego and walking everywhere, things like that. But beyond that, it was just it's always been a struggle. I'm curious with you though, with being off the meds on maintenance. Do
Hmm.
you, because I know you say you have days that are hard, right?
Yeah.
Do you find, because I'm a bored eater because of my ADHD, um, do you find
Mhm.
like it's harder on the weekends, or is it just random, as far as if you're
I
at work or is
Yeah, I did at first, and I talked to my therapist. She goes, "Keep yourself busy."
yep.
Um,
That's my
yeah, I tend to eat mine is more meals though. I never really snacked. I never really liked
okay.
snacks, but you know, my therapist said a few different things. If you're hungry, hunger versus, and I have to evaluate that too. Is it hunger, or is it because I'm bored and I want to eat something?
Hmm.
What I do is I carry maybe some Jolly Ranchers, blood sugar, or some gum. I always have my coffee, and I keep myself busy. I go out, I go for a walk if I feel like, oh my God, I'm sitting in the house. Like I go for a walk. Maybe I'll go to a thrift store. Maybe I'll go, to a store, something like that. Maybe I'll meet up with a friend, FaceTime. I'll do something
Hmm.
to channel that, because it is, in a way, for me, it was just something to do because I wanted to do it. And I do
Hmm.
love food. I still
Yeah,
love food.
do
I
you?
get so much enjoyment from food. But it doesn't have to rule my life anymore.
Yeah,
And there are some people who say like, oh, like you don't have to enjoy food. And I'm like, no. And I work in a field where I have people, unfortunately, that will never be able to eat by their mouth again because
yeah.
they have swallowing difficulties and it's not safe. So, I also look at it from that standpoint, right? Like, food is pleasure. I have someone
Hmm.
who he has or he can eat by mouth, but he's not getting enough in, but he still chooses to with his, peg and stuff like that. Like, for me, it's important to realize that it doesn't have to rule my life and I have control. It doesn't have control over me.
Yeah,
And, like you said, I really just channel it. I look mentally into it, and then I channel it into something else, a walk, a friend, call. Maybe it's watching a TV show, getting outside, getting away from that. But then I evaluate too. If I'm actually hungry, I'm going to eat something.
yeah,
Before, I probably would have ate, maybe a cookie or something like that. Now I'll have a yogurt or something like that too. So I changed that as well.
yeah,
So yeah.
yeah. Awesome. Well, Jackie, this has been amazing. You're amazing, and I appreciate you sharing everything you did.
Thanks for listening to me blab for 50 minutes.
No, absolutely. And actually, let me ask you one because I do ask this one at the end. One piece of advice for anyone considering these medications, what would you
Oh my
share?
gosh. My piece of advice is to trust yourself. I think that, I've always been so hard on myself. I never trusted myself. And I realized I really had to look, you're all you got, you're the one that knows your body best. You know the struggles you've been through, you know everything that you've gone through. Trust yourself, be kind to yourself, and because you're going to be with yourself only on the journey. I have a lot of people talking at me thinking they understand what I think daily. And I am a pretty open person with my feelings, even my parents, but that doesn't mean they understand or know everything that I think. So my biggest thing is trust yourself, trust your instincts, be safe, and really just be kind to yourself. The way I've talked to myself, I would never talk to anyone. So I think that's been kind of eye-opening, and I think that's affected me relationships, definitely personal relationships, my mental state, my mental health in general, it's affected all of that. So that's my big piece of advice. And yeah, and definitely if you are considering it, talk to a doctor because it will change your life. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Wasn't that a great interview with Jackie? If you guys liked it, please be sure to like and comment. Also, subscribe to the channel below and be sure to check the description section for all of Jackie's socials as well as a link to her incredible GLP-1 t-shirts.